Silence stretched between them. Alara lowered the phone slowly, but she didn't put it away. Her fingers tightened around it instead, like it was the only thing keeping her steady. For a long moment, she said nothing. And somehow, that hurt more than anger would have. "You don't get it," Alara said finally, voice quiet but uneven in a way Vera had never heard before. Vera didn't interrupt, didn't dare. Alara let out a slow breath, eyes fixed somewhere past Vera's shoulder. "I knew what you were like," she continued. "From the beginning, everyone does. You flirt, you joke, you move on. Nothing sticks unless you want it to." Her jaw tightened. "So I told myself not to take any of this seriously, that whatever was happening between us was temporary, that I could handle it." A small, humorless laugh slipped out. "I planned for you to lose interest." Vera flinched. Alara's gaze finally lifted to meet hers. "But then you didn't." Her voice softened, frustration bleeding through restraint. "You showed up. You tried. You actually listened to me. You started caring about things you used to mock. And I—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "I started believing you meant it." The confession hung fragile in the air. Alara exhaled slowly, then added, quieter but firm. "And for the record, I never chose Mira." Vera blinked. Alara held her gaze, unwavering now despite the emotion in her eyes. "She was never an option in my mind," she said. "She's my friend. That's all she's ever been. My feelings toward her never went beyond that." A beat passed. "I wasn't moving on," Alara admitted. "I was trying to figure out how to handle you." The words landed gently but decisively. Her composure wavered again. "I don't let people in easily," she continued. "I don't need people easily. My whole life works because I stay focused, because I don't depend on anyone else." Her voice faltered. "But you kept pushing your way into it anyway." A breath shook loose from her. "And I let you." The words carried more weight than anything she'd said before. Alara glanced down briefly, gathering herself, and failing. "So when I saw that," she said, gesturing faintly toward the phone, "it didn't just look like you were with someone else." Her eyes lifted again, shining now despite her effort to stay composed. "It felt like I was stupid for believing you were ever serious about me." The last of her control slipped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just honestly. "I hate that it mattered," she whispered. "I hate that you mattered enough to hurt me like that." Silence settled between them, heavy and fragile. Alara looked unsure of herself in a way Vera had never seen before. And slowly, painfully, Vera began to understand. This wasn't about jealousy. It wasn't about the post. It was about trust. Something Alara almost never gave. And Vera had come dangerously close to destroying it. The silence lingered after Alara's words, fragile enough that even breathing felt too loud. Vera watched her, really watched her. And that's when she saw it, the shine in Alara's eyes, the way she blinked too quickly, trying to force the emotion back under control. The sight hit Vera harder than any accusation could have. Pain twisted sharply in her chest. Without thinking, she stepped closer. Alara didn't move. Vera lifted her hand slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to. When she didn't, Vera's thumb brushed lightly beneath Alara's eye, wiping away the tear before it could fall. The touch was careful, almost reverent. "I know," Vera said softly. Alara frowned slightly, thrown by the lack of defense. Vera shook her head once. "No, I know why you'd think that." Her voice was steady now, quieter, stripped of panic. "I gave you every reason not to trust me," she admitted. "I treated everything like a game for a long time, people included." A small breath left her. "You included." The honesty landed heavily between them. "But you were never temporary to me," Vera continued. "I just didn't realize how permanent you'd become until I thought I was losing you." She hesitated, then added carefully, like the words mattered enough to get right. And I didn't kiss her. Alara's gaze flickered. Vera held it, refusing to look away. I couldn't go through with it, she said quietly. I pulled back before anything happened, because that's not who I want to be anymore. Her expression softened, guilt plain now. And I hate that I hurt you, she added, voice low. I never wanted to be the reason you felt stupid for trusting me. I'm really sorry, Alara. Truly. The apology settled between them, simple and unguarded. I know you might not believe me after seeing that, she continued gently. I get why you wouldn't. But it's true. A breath passed. When I said I love you, that wasn't panic talking, Vera said. That was me finally being honest instead of pretending I didn't care. The quiet sincerity made the space between them feel smaller somehow. Too small. Alara inhaled sharply. For a moment, she looked like she might say something back. Instead, she shook her head once, stepping backward. I can't do this right now, she said, voice tight. Vera didn't move. Alara turned toward her dorm. Every instinct in Vera screamed to follow, to stop her, argue, demand an answer. She stayed where she was. Okay, Vera said instead. Alara paused, just slightly. I'll wait, Vera added quietly. Not forever, not in a way that traps you, but long enough for you to decide what you actually want, without me pushing. That almost broke her. Alara's shoulders stiffened before she started walking again, pushing through the dorm doors without looking back. They swung shut behind her with a soft click. Vera exhaled slowly, staring at the door Alara had disappeared through. Only now did she understand something important. Loving Alara Finch didn't mean chasing her down every time she tried to run. It meant stepping back, letting her think, trusting that if what they had mattered even half as much as it felt like it did, Alara would come back when she was ready. The thought didn't make the waiting easier, but it made it necessary. Vera dragged a hand through her hair, finally turning away from the dorm entrance and heading across the quad, the night air cool against her skin. For once, there was nothing left for her to do but hope she hadn't realized the truth too late. Alara tried to keep herself busy. Exams and finals were coming up, and normally that would have been enough. Alara thrived under pressure, under deadlines, under the clean structure of things she could solve with effort and discipline. So she buried herself in it. Notes spread across her desk, practice exams, color-coded flashcards. Hours in the library until the lights dimmed and the staff started stacking chairs. It should have worked. But every time her mind quieted, I'm in love with you. The words followed her anyway. Her chest tightened, breath shallow, heart thudding hard enough to make concentration impossible. She adjusted the strap of her bag on her shoulder more times than necessary as she crossed the quad, grounding herself in the familiar motion. This was exactly why she had tried to keep it temporary, why she'd insisted on rules in the first place, because now there were no excuses left, no misunderstandings to hide behind, no pretending it was just rivalry or chemistry that would burn out if they ignored it long enough. Vera had said it plainly, and now that it had been said out loud, there was no pretending it hadn't changed everything, no stepping back, no returning to the version of them that existed before that night. Whatever came next, there was no going back now. Alara? She stopped. Mira stood a few steps ahead near the library steps, brow creased slightly in concern. Alara forced her shoulders to relax. Hey! Mira studied her face for a moment. Are you okay? Yes, Alara said automatically. Mira didn't look convinced. You don't look okay, she said gently. You look like someone just knocked the air out of you. Alara hesitated. I'm just dealing with something, she said carefully. Mira nodded slowly, but her eyes stayed thoughtful. Is it about Vera? Alara blinked. What? Mira gestured lightly toward the dorm side of campus. I saw you two last night, she said. After I left. She caught up with you outside the dorms. The memory flashed back instantly. Vera's voice, the confession, the look on her face when Alara showed her the post. Alara looked away, jaw tightening. It's not what it looked like, she said quietly. Mira tilted her head. I didn't say it was. That almost undid her. Alara exhaled slowly. She stopped, recalibrating. We're rivals, on the field, and things got complicated. Mira was quiet for a moment, then softly, complicated how? Alara swallowed, in ways I didn't plan for. Mira's expression didn't harden. If anything, it softened. Do you want to talk about it? She asked. Or do you want me to pretend I didn't notice? The choice made Alara's chest ache. I don't know what I want, Alara admitted. I just know I don't want to hurt anyone. Mira nodded slowly. Including yourself? Alara didn't answer. That's usually how I know something matters, Mira continued gently. When pretending it doesn't starts hurting more than admitting it does. The words settled uncomfortably close to the truth. Mira shifted her weight, then said quietly, For what it's worth. I like you. Alara looked at her sharply. There was no pressure in Mira's voice, no expectation, just honesty. And that made it impossible to dodge. Alara took a slow breath. Mira, you're kind, she said carefully, and you deserve someone who can give you that back. The meaning landed between them. Mira studied her face for a second, before letting out a small breath, understanding settling in. So it really is her, she said gently. Alara didn't confirm it, but she didn't deny it either. Mira gave a faint, rueful smile. Well, she said, stepping back slightly, that explains a lot. I didn't want to lead you on, Alara said quietly. You didn't, Mira replied. You were honest. She adjusted the strap of her bag. Just don't disappear on yourself, okay? Then she turned and headed toward the library doors. Alara watched her go, the quad suddenly feeling too quiet. She stood there for a long moment, heart heavy, thoughts spinning. Vera's confession still echoed in her chest, and Alara realized, with a clarity that scared her, whatever choice she made next was going to change everything, and pretending otherwise wasn't an option anymore. The semifinals were in full swing. The fields buzzed with noise, shouts from the sidelines, whistles cutting through the air, the thud of cleats against turf. Every team left in the tournament was fighting for the same thing now. One win away from the finals. Southridge had just secured theirs. The final whistle had blown minutes ago, sending Vera's teammates into loud celebration, hands slapping shoulders, someone shouting about drinks later, the usual chaos that followed a hard-earned win. Vera barely registered any of it. Her chest still heaved from the match, sweat cooling against her skin as she tugged her captain's band loose. The victory should have felt good. It did. But the first thought that cut through the adrenaline wasn't about the game. Alara. They'd done it. They'd won their semi-final. The realization sparked something bright and restless in her chest. She wanted to tell her, wanted to see the look on Alara's face when she said it, half competitive, half impressed, that sharp little smile she tried to hide whenever Vera managed something worth acknowledging. Vera paused at the edge of the field, watching her teammates continue celebrating behind her. She shouldn't go. The last week had been clear. Alara needed space. Vera had promised herself she'd respect that. And she had. Every day of it. Every moment she'd stopped herself from texting, from walking past the library, from lingering outside buildings she knew Alara studied in. It had been torture. Still was. Vera exhaled slowly, dragging a hand through her damp hair. Just a look, she told herself. Not a conversation. Not a confrontation. Just seeing how Alara's team was doing. Before she could talk herself out of it, she turned toward the neighboring field. Northside's match was already underway when she arrived. The crowd there was just as loud, students packed along the sidelines, voices rising every time the ball pushed toward the goal. Vera stayed back from the main group, slipping around the edge of the stands until she found a clear view near the fence, hidden enough not to be obvious. Her eyes scanned the field automatically. It only took a second. Alara stood near midfield, black and gold jersey bright under the afternoon sun, ponytail swaying slightly as she shifted her stance. Focused, sharp, completely locked into the game. Vera felt the grin spread across her face before she could stop it. Of course she did. Alara moved like the field belonged to her, cutting through opposing players with precise control, reading the play 2 steps ahead like she always did. A pass snapped cleanly off her foot, sending the ball racing upfield. Vera leaned casually against the fence, pretending she wasn't watching nearly as closely as she was. But her eyes never left Alara, not when she sprinted to intercept a pass, not when she barked quick instructions to a teammate, not when she pivoted sharply and drove the ball back into Northside's attack with that same relentless determination Vera had admired since the first time they'd faced each other. From this distance, Alara had no idea she was there. And for now, Vera was okay with that. She folded her arms loosely against the fence, watching the play unfold as the game pressed forward, waiting to see what Alara would do next. Alara pivoted sharply near midfield, cutting across the defender who had been shadowing her all half. As she planted her foot to change direction, a faint twinge shot through her ankle. It wasn't dramatic. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But Vera did. From her spot near the fence, her posture straightened immediately. She knew Alara's tells, had learned them from months of rivalry, watching how she shifted her weight, the way her shoulders tightened when something wasn't right. Alara played through everything: frustration, exhaustion, pain. Vera's jaw tightened. That wasn't normal. On the field, Alara kept moving. Of course she did. She intercepted a pass seconds later, pushing the ball forward like nothing had happened, expression locked into that same focused calm she always wore during matches. But Vera could see it. The slight hesitation when Alara planted her foot again, the barely there stiffness in her stride. She knew, and there was absolutely nothing she could do about it. Vera stayed where she was, arms folded against the fence, watching with growing concern as the play surged forward again. "Come on, Finch," she muttered under her breath. Then it happened. An opposing defender lunged for the ball, sliding in harder than necessary. The tackle connected cleanly, but the impact twisted Alara's ankle sharply beneath her. The sound that left Alara was small, sharp, but it cut straight through the noise of the crowd. Vera heard it, and moved. By the time the referee's whistle shrieked for the foul, Vera was already running across the edge of the field. Players gathered around Alara where she'd gone down, but Vera pushed through them without hesitation. Nothing else mattered. Hey, she said, dropping beside her. "Are you okay?" Alara blinked up at her, clearly startled. "Vera?" For a moment, the pain faded behind pure surprise, and something warmer. "What are you doing here?" she asked breathlessly. Vera rubbed the back of her neck awkwardly. "We won," she said, almost sheepish. "Our semi-final." A small smile tugged at Alara's lips despite everything. "You came to check the score?" Vera shrugged lightly. "Maybe." Before Alara could respond, a medic jogged over with the team trainer. "All right, let's take a look," the medic said gently. They examined her ankle quickly, pressing along the joint until Alara winced. "Looks like a sprain," the medic concluded. "Nothing catastrophic, but you need to ice it and stay off it for the rest of the match." Alara let out a quiet breath of relief. Vera was already offering her a hand. "Come on," she said. "Sidelines." With Vera supporting her weight, Alara carefully made her way off the field. They settled on the bench, the medic handing Vera a cold pack. Vera pressed it gently against Alara's ankle. "Tell me if that's too much." "It's fine," Alara said. They sat quietly for a moment, watching the match continue without her. The remaining minutes ticked down fast. Then, the final whistle blew. Northside had held their lead. Alara's teammates erupted in cheers, rushing toward the bench moments later. "Finch! You did half the work out there!" A couple of them pulled her into careful celebratory hugs. "We're all going to the Lantern to celebrate," one of them said excitedly. "You coming?" Alara hesitated. Her eyes drifted to Vera, still sitting beside her with the ice pack resting carefully against her ankle. "I'm going to pass tonight," Alara said. "You guys have fun." Her teammates exchanged quick looks but didn't push it. "All right, Captain, rest that ankle." They started heading off together, voices already drifting into excited planning. As they walked away, two of them slowed slightly behind the group. "Since when were those two so close?" one whispered. "I thought they hated each other." They shook their heads and hurried to catch up. The noise faded quickly as the team disappeared toward the parking lot. The field grew quiet again. Vera shifted slightly beside Alara. "Why didn't you go with them?" she asked. Alara watched her teammates in the distance for a moment before answering. Then she glanced sideways at Vera. "Because," she said quietly, "I already won the part of today that mattered." She adjusted the ice pack slightly against her ankle, eyes returning to the empty field. Vera shifted slightly beside Alara, watching the last of the players leave the field. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Vera turned toward her, reaching out almost absent-mindedly and placing her hand gently over Alara's, where it rested on the bench. "I guess," she said lightly, "we'll be facing off in the finals together." Alara looked down at their hands. Instead of pulling away, she threaded her fingers through Vera's, locking them together. Her lips curved faintly. "Together?" she said. She lifted her eyes to Vera's. "Don't you mean against each other?" Vera grinned immediately, the familiar spark returning to her expression. "Oh, Finch," she teased, squeezing her hand lightly. "You know you love the competition." Alara raised an eyebrow. "Please," she said dryly. "You're the one who came running across the field the second I made a sound." Vera scoffed. "That was strategy." Alara tilted her head. "Concern looks suspiciously like strategy now." Vera leaned back on the bench, still holding her hand. "You're welcome," she said smugly. Alara rolled her eyes, but the corner of her mouth betrayed her. And somewhere between rivalry and relief, the space between them felt a little easier to breathe in. On the empty field in front of them, the goalposts stood quiet, waiting. The finals were coming.